Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very, very accomplished woman from Ahmedabad, Poonam Kathuria. Poonam, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Poonam is the founder of the Society for Women's Action and Training Initiatives, which is also called SWATI. SWATI is an organization that works on issues related to violence against women. Poonam has been recognized and felicitated globally. So Poonam, let's talk about the Society for Women's Action and Training Initiatives, which is SWATI. Tell me about the work you do here.
Well, gender-based, we are a feminist organization, all women's organization, and our early motto, we articulated it like within the first 2 years of our formation was of the women, for the women, by the women.
Wonderful.
So we are a feminist group. And early in life, we also decided that violence against women is the key issue that we want to address, because when you address gender-based violence is when you address structures. If you're working on livelihood, if you're working in SHE groups, you're working on nutrition, it's something that is a primary need and everyone benefits from it. So when women form SHE groups, men get to take loans and they're very happy that women are forming SHE.
Correct.
It's when gender-based violence comes into the picture is when you start talking about what is that structure which is perpetuating, allowing someone of another gender, but mainly male, to perpetuate violence on women and girls. And what are those structural factors that women continue to be in that form of violence? And that's how our core objective is to address all forms of violence against women. So that's how.
So let's talk about violence against women. I mean, I think it is completely unacceptable. But let's talk about what are some of the challenges that are faced by survivors or people who have faced this.
See, people who face violence, the first challenge that we as survivors face, and I call myself a survivor because every woman faces some or the other form of violence in her lifetime. So there's not a single person who can say that I haven't faced violence, be it in the public sphere, be it in the private sphere, within the home, outside the home, public institutions, educational institutions. We as survivors, one of the first things that we have to fight is our own mindset. And that's our first challenge. Where should I talk about it? Should I challenge someone? What is the repercussion of that? There's a social repercussion, there's an economic repercussion, there's a challenge of approaching the judiciary, the law, the legal system. So I think there are multiple challenges, and then you also have the lack of information on what kind of support you have. So family becomes your first challenge. And the family, moment you talk about it, is the first barrier to addressing that violence, because mostly people would like to say, oh, it'll get over, maybe you don't need to talk about it, maybe you need to do it another way, maybe you need to change yourself. I think these are the multiple challenges that any woman in our society, be it a poor person or a well-off person, faces in our society.
Very interesting. And Poonam, I was speaking to somebody in the US on something similar. And one of the things I learned was that a very large number of instances don't even come out in the open because families don't want to talk about it.
I just mentioned that to you.
Okay.
And they don't come out in the open. In our own data, particularly there's this NFHS 4, which is a fairly well-respected data for the country, National Family Health Survey. So we have the 15-16 data where it shows, compared to 7 and 8, 9 NFHS 3, which was in 2007-8, violence has gone down. Lesser women reporting violence. So compared to 26% women saying they faced violence in the last 1 year from a spouse, you have 20% women saying we faced violence from a spouse in the 15-16 data. But on the other hand, you have 23% women also saying that they reported violence in the first phase, in the NFHS 3. So you have women in the NFHS 4, only 14% took help, compared to 23% 10 years earlier, or 6 years earlier, sorry. So I'm saying, what is that phenomena? At once, so there's a reporting which has gone down, and there's a taking help which has gone down. And then we looked at of the 14%, what happens, who takes, like of the 20% women who faced violence, 97% took help from the family.
I see.
1% went to doctors, medical systems, because you end up going to a medical system if you face injury, if you face, mental trauma. So took help from hospitals, and only 3% went to the police.
Wow.
So now, if you say reporting, this is the reporting. Right? And even the 26% is a tip of the 20% reporting or in 2015-16 is a tip of the iceberg, because this kind of thing is always underreported. Usme bhi sexual violence will always be underreported.
Correct.
And so those are the kind of challenges even in our data. And I think we need to have a more, and moment you do small community-based surveys. So we did one in, I think, 2004 in 5 districts. So we had 68% women reporting that they faced violence. And when we asked them, इसका कारण क्या है? ऐसे पानी के गिलास पे भी हिंसा हो जाती है कि पानी का गिलास मांगा और नहीं दिया तो हिंसा हो जाती है. तो हिंसा is no reason. It's a power relationship, because men have power and he knows that she's not going to go away, or so there's a helpless quotient which is created for women. Okay, how do you keep her lachar? Helplessness quotient is a word that we coined, and we said this is how women are kept or are sustained in violent relationships. And because men know and are aware that there is no challenge to their power, and she will continue to suffer till she cannot suffer. So women report violence only when it becomes unbearable. I cannot take it anymore.
But tell me, Poonam, what is the recourse? I mean, education of women, education of men, education by parents of their sons. I mean, what is the answer?
See, the answer has been kind of known to us. Point is whether we want to walk that path or whether we want to walk the talk.
Okay.
I mean, we have data which says that women at higher levels of education do face lesser violence. Again, I come back to the helplessness quotient. She has options. Maybe she can take a job. 12 class padi mahila, less violence. Non-literate 5th class padi mahila. This is again NFHS data telling us all this. Rural and urban. Urban women face lesser violence compared to rural, because you have lesser facilities, lesser information, more feudal societies, the barrier, just the mobility factor. Rural woman finds it very difficult to move out of her home because the support services are so far away. For a rural woman facing violence, first barrier is, of course, the family. Then you have a samaj, which is like very heavy on you. You have a society around you, a community, because it's a very community-based society. Yeah. And then you have all these systems, like the police may be 25 kilometers away. The health facility might be, another 25 kilometers away. I have no information on helplines. I don't have a phone. And the bus which takes me to that facility, also maybe I have to, travel another 20. So you see the kind of barriers which come up, which sound simple to, they seem implausible, but sometimes when you talk to women, you say, my God,
difficult. Yeah.
And so obviously education of women is an answer. Property to women who have property. There's Kerala data. Meena Agarwal has written books on it. That you give women land, you give women property, let us see whether they'll face violence or not. So all of that is going to, and then of course parents have to become sensitive. I do say that the younger generation is more sensitive. We do research. Research is a very integral part of our work, and when we work with girls and boys do show more gender equitable attitude. But kabhi ye lagta hai this far and no further. Because patriarchy privileges all men.
Yes.
And men or boys are not willing. You have to get to another level to say, I want to give up my privilege, because however poor a person is, has one servant. And that's his wife, who will wash his clothes, clean the house, wash the vessels, cook for him so that he can go to work next day. And then she also goes to work post that. So I'm just saying, patriarchy is the biggest thing. And then you have this masculinity, which is mardangi, which is to do with the idea of power, which is to do with what do men do, what do men look like, how do men behave. So, so you have the family saying, "Arey ye khana kyo banayega?" Are ye aise kyun karega? Softer men are ridiculed very often. So we have case studies of how boys who are soft are called girly.
Wow.
And they suffer. So it's a very entrenched kind of a system which we have to. So all I'm saying is you have to work multi-pronged. There's no single answer.
Interesting.
You have to work at multiple levels, including state institutions.
Yeah. And you mentioned that only 3% of cases reach police stations. Is any deterrent action taken by the police, or is it just another case that just keeps lying?
Police thinks chori chakari is the only calm they should look into. They think all these women create extra work for us.
I see.
In COVID, we have a situation where we interviewed several women because COVID mein bahut aaya tha na. Gender-based violence has gone up. There were reports of doubling and tripling, even from the National Commission from Women, and even from police stations we had these reports, including helplines, saying that they get more calls when men are at home. So when women were trapped in a way with their perpetrators, abusive husbands, and those men had not much to do. Also, stress was there, no work, no money, and liquor flows, of course. So obviously, violence against women had gone up in multiple ways. And this woman tells us that he beats me up, and the police, which is in the village, to ensure that everyone is maintaining social distance and mask, the police guy tells me, okay, maybe you don't feed him well. That's why you beat him. He beats. Feed him good food. He's in distress. So I'm just saying, ये एक attitude है पुलिस का. पुलिस जल्दी से मदद नहीं करती है.
Including women police officers?
Yeah. See, ultimately, all of us, women are also in a patriarchal system. You may have women police officers, sometimes more sensitive. There is some facilitation because you can argue with them a little better because the listening is a little more, like the receptivity is a little higher. But otherwise, they are also in a system. They survive in that system by becoming equally male. It's a very male system. So as a police officer, as a woman police officer, you have to be almost like men in order to be able to be.
Very well said. Very well said. So, coming back to Swati, what is the role you play in supporting a lot of these women? I mean, if our viewers and listeners love to hear anecdotes without giving names, of course. So if you can share one or two such instances.
Before I go there, I just also want to talk about our work in terms of of course, gender-based violence is our primary core area of work.
Yeah.
But also one of the roles that I have is to how to forward this goal. And we work on mitigating gender-based violence at several levels.
Right.
And we work in a systems approach because working with individuals is non-sustainable because the individual moves on and then the next, but you do nothing to change the system. So we also work in a systems approach where we work with community systems, for example. So initially in our work in the life of Swati, we set up these Nari Adalats, which were women leaders from the community trained as paralegal workers.
I see.
And they would hold these very public kind of hearings. Okay, so they would sit in a public space, very often outside a court. And we would ask, so awareness in the villages, so women will come with their cases. And you have this very public way of talking about, is violence right or wrong? And I'm talking of 30 years ago, okay? And this is how we started our work. And suddenly, so for example, the way the Nari Panchayats, we call them Nari Adalats or Nari Panchayats, Mahila Panchayats, suddenly in the public domain, and everyone's watching, okay, this is now a very public kind of a hearing, and there's this family of the male and the female, and everyone's talking about usne kya kiya, and the questioning happens around, is violence right or wrong? And you push the definitions and boundaries of what is right and wrong, and you arrive at that under no circumstances violence is wrong. And today when you see gender-based violence as a very common understanding, like it is wrong, and no one denies that domestic violence hai. 30 years ago, people said this doesn't happen.
Right.
It only happens to poor, or it only happens to people who are not literate. अच्छे घरों में नहीं होता types. तो वो एक था. So that was the community system where we modeled this on the Jati Panchayat. Khap Panchayats क्या है? So we said, okay. So our sangatans, federations of 4,000 women, 5,000 women, then they had these Nari Adalats. So those were amazing kissas. I mean, I remember one kissa of the Nari Adalat, if I can tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time we have.
No, we have time.
So So this was an 8th March occasion, and we had this girl. So this person approached the Mahila Panchayat saying, my husband has thrown me out of the house on allegations of being unfaithful or infidelity. So, and then this case came to the Nari Adalat, and 8 March ko humne is case ko 8 March ko we said, you come and speak on the mic. It's important that women speak on violence against women in a very public way. Correct. And then her father also came in. And then the next day the Nari Adalat was held. And then the father-in-law and the son comes in, and suddenly during this whole discussion, Kanku, and I said the name, but Kanku suddenly says, my father-in-law did this to my mother-in-law. He did exactly this and threw her out.
Wow.
And suddenly the entire Jati Panchayat, the caste Panchayat which had come, they just got up and threw their pagdis down and said, ye aise baat kaise kar sakti? So the issue no longer was whether the father-in-law had also done something similar.
Or something happened to her.
But the issue was, how can she talk like this?
Wow.
So this is how you push the public discourse and you take it into the public sphere and you sort of work on it. We also work with health systems, because a lot of women who face violence, they come into the doctor. Very often the medical system, because they think only medical is, so they treat the injury, and the doctor realizes कि इसको ये चोट सीढ़ी से गिरने पे नहीं लगी है. She's not fallen from the ladder. But he doesn't ask, because he thinks it's the private matter. And so he treats her for the injury, but not for the violence which has caused the injury, and the violence keeps on happening. And this woman keeps on coming back to the system. So we started working with the health system, and we work in 3 large public hospitals, where we get about 1,500 cases per hospital in a year.
Wow.
And these are referred to us. So we train doctors, we work with nurses, with the medical staff, and these are all in rural areas. And so that's the systems approach that we take, because that is what is sustainable. Because ultimately the health system has to say, and WHO, by the way, World Health Organization, has recognized violence as a public health concern. So that's how we work with policy and with the system. And the third is we work with the governance system. Okay. Safe cities का काम हो रहा है. तो municipalities के साथ काम होता है कि आप लाइटें लगाओगे, आप सेफ्टी करोगे, आप टॉयलेट्स बनाओगे महिलाओं के लिए. गांव में कौन है? गांव में there's only a gram panchayat. So we are now working with the governance systems at the rural area, because otherwise what happens when you don't have mobility? Moment you curtail a girl's mobility, you curtail education.
Correct.
You curtail education, you lead to early marriage, because अब पढ़ती नहीं है तो साथ शादी कर दो. Moment you have early marriage, you have early children. You have more early pregnancies. So you have more children dying. You have malnutrition. And the whole cycle then continues. And India is one of the largest in the world contributing to child and underage marriage. Not child marriage anymore, but you still have underage marriage below the age of 18. So that's how we sort of work with these systems now, and sort of look at it in policy kind of a framework. And I can tell you how we deal with it. It's so complex, meaning you deal with it sometimes in ways that might seem even wrong. So we had this case in one of our hospitals. We work with very feudal communities, very rigid. So this person approached us and said that I am from a very feudal Maldhari. Maldharis are cattle rearers. And they to have, like, you cannot marry outside the community. If you do, the entire family will be outcasted.
Okay.
And they will also be, and no one will ever marry them. No one will ever eat in their house. That's the kind of culture, the social norms which prevail. So anyway, so she had been married, और उनमें काफी बार ये पालने का विवाह होता है, जिसको ये cradle, like while you're still 6 months, you're like pledged to somebody else, or by the age of 5 years. So as she grew up, she realized that she was married. She had, like, as a 25-year-old, she's married to a 47-year-old. Wow. He's 47. And in the meantime, she also fell in love with somebody else and decided to run away with him. And family somewhere supported it, her family, because they realized कि ये क्या हो गया है. So one day when she was sleeping in the husband's house, this other family comes in a jeep and kidnaps her, and now keeps her in a constrained situation. And long story short, she manages to run away and gives us a call. Now we are also worried, because this is a very fierce, you have a community to deal with, you don't have a family to deal with, and the legal system इतना यहाँ पे वो strong भी नहीं है, मतलब इसमें काम नहीं कर रहा. So then we put her in a shelter home in Ahmedabad. She was in a place called Radhanpur, which is 300 kilometers from Ahmedabad. But we said, let's put her in Ahmedabad. So we brought her to Ahmedabad. So my counselor was in touch with her, but I one day decided, maybe jati. So I went to the shelter home, and she came out and she says, and this was just within a day of her being in the shelter home. And she says, I'm going mad. I have been eating gutka since the age of 5. And यहाँ पे इन्होंने मेरे से ले लिया. I can't stay here. मेरा तो सिर घूम रहा है. I am not able to sleep. मुझे चक्कर आ रहे हैं. मुझे कुछ था ये समझ. And I had taken Compose with me. So I didn't have gutka, but I passed on those 10 tablets of Compose and said, ये खा के रह जाओ. So, that's how and then of course, then we negotiated with the community, we got with the elders and finally got her back to the person she wanted to.
Amazing.
A long story. So this is how you end up sometimes doing things.
Absolutely amazing. And is there law in our country to support or protect women?
We have some of the most progressive laws which are not implemented. India is a very progressive legal regime, and that's the strength of the women's movement. So you have 498A, you have Protection for Women Against Domestic Violence Act, you have a very strong rape law, which is graded in terms of sexual assault. Ko grade karta hai wo. Very, very strong laws. And that is where the women's movement succeeded, but the implementation is so poor and the legal system is it just drags and drags and drags. But we do see, so I'm saying that's our challenge. And women are using law less and less, I think, in the current atmosphere.
Fascinating. So Poonam, I'm going to now move to the next segment of our conversation. Our audience loves to ask, loves to hear a little bit about you personally. So I've got 2 or 3 questions for you personally. My first question to you is that as someone who founded this amazing organization, what are some of the core values you believe in?
Violence is non-negotiable.
Correct.
Transparency has been a very, very core value to the organization from day one. And amazingly, we haven't had a single case of corruption in the organization in 50 years.
Fantastic.
And I sometimes wonder, how will I deal with it if it happens? Meaning I'll consider it a personal failure.
Okay.
And I think when we work with cases, I think, that's the other thing that we do. It's one thing to say, supposing we do go by what a woman wants, and she may want that I want to stay back in a relationship, and we may counsel her, but it is ultimately her wish that we pursue. So it is her autonomy of women. What is it that they want to do is something that we sort of kind of stay with.
Very interesting. I have time for 2 more questions. My next question to you is that for someone who is doing so much and is actually seeing results, what does success mean to Poonam?
It doesn't mean anything, because there's always so much to do and you continuously look at itna baki hai, sirf itna hi hua hai. So I haven't been able to define it.
Okay.
I've thought about it earlier and I've not felt successful.
Okay. Okay. And a follow-up question from that, Poonam, is that who or what inspires you to keep pushing yourself to keep giving back so much?
I think it's something innate. Innate nahi, I don't mean that. I'm a person, even at the age of 14 or 15, I would notice poverty. It's something that I could not bypass. And I could just not walk away from a slum without feeling, why are they poor? What is it that I did, which I haven't done. It's only an accident of birth. It puts me where I am.
Yeah.
I think challenges inspire. I am a person who, if I'm challenged, failure can never deter me. Within 5 minutes, I am excited about it.
Wonderful.
And I feel isko bhi solve karna padega.
Wonderful.
So nothing, yeah.
Terrific. Poonam, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you for the amazing journey you've taken me on about the work Swati is doing. And, thank you for the amazing work you're doing to protect so many women.
Thank you.
Thank you again and good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.